Hello students, welcome back. Let's resume our discussion on quadratic equations. A quadratic equation is a polynomial equation that can be simplified into this form. And we're going to discuss three types of solution methods. One is a factorization method, which we partly discussed already in the previous video and will resume in this video. And then there are two more, the square root method and the quadratic formula method. These will be discussed in separate videos. For now, let's come back to the factorization method. Here, right-hand side is equal to 0. That's very, very important. If we can factor the left-hand side into something times something like this, blue times red, equal to 0, then because right-hand side is equal to 0, either blue is 0 or red is 0. Consequently, we get either blue equation or red equation, and therefore we get blue solution or red solution. So if I can factor the left-hand side and right-hand side is equal to 0, then we can reduce the quadratic equation into two linear equations. When the leading coefficient is 1, that factorization is very, very easy. All you have to do is to look at the factors of the constant term, which will add up to middle term. So factors of positive 8, which will add up to negative 6. In this particular case, we get negative 4 times negative 2, which add up to negative 6. That's because the leading coefficient was 1. Mono means 1. Here's another example. Factors of negative 8 adding to negative 7. So we get negative 9 times positive 2, which will multiply into negative 18, but they'll add up to negative 7. And that's because the leading coefficient was 1. Now, if you look at the third example, it looks like this is non-monic. But after some simplification, we end up with a monic equation. So the same thing again. Factors of this constant term adding up to the middle number, the linear coefficient. Okay, that was okay, but let's go to heck of a lot harder type of problem. Non-monic quadratic equations. No, not this. And oh boy, what is this? It's extremely hard to understand. There are too many characters. So let's go ahead with some example problems. How to do this? Factors of positive 2 adding up to negative 5. Good luck about that. You can't find anything like that. And even if you do find, that's not going to work. The reason is because this is non-monic. The leading coefficient is 3, not 1. In this case, you have to work out the leading coefficient and constant term together. There can be many methods out there, but the method I'm going to tell you is so-called tic-tac-toe method for quadratic equation. If you want to learn a little bit more about this tic-tac-toe method, go to YouTube and then type in tic-tac-toe method for quadratic equations, and you'll be able to find some very, very nice lesson videos created by high school teachers all over the country. And you can find many, many examples. Also, there are other quadratic factorization methods as well. And if you feel more comfortable with other methods, go ahead and use those. Stick to whatever works for you. Now, if you're having a little bit difficulty, and if you're going to learn something here with me, then my method is tic-tac-toe method. So let me tell you how it works. First, a tic-tac-toe board. And then multiply the first and the last number. So 3 times 2 is 6. That's step 1. Oops. Sorry about that. Why am I doing this? I can always just copy and paste the entire thing. Now, factors of 6 adding up to -5. So previously, you just got the constant term and then factors of the constant term adding up to the linear coefficient. But that was because the leading coefficient was 1. So 1 times constant was just that. But in general, this is not 1. So 3 times 2, we get 6. And then we go from here. Factors of 6 adding up to -5. What are those? 1 times 6? No, not really. 2 times 3 will do. You see, this is positive, so we have to have two identical signs. So that we get -2 times -3 is +6, and they're going to add up to -5. Okay? All right. Now that we got this, we don't use this linear coefficient anymore. Let's go to the next step. Okay, from here, we have to fill up all the other blanks. Everything is multiplication, horizontally and vertically. And also, the first column is always positive as long as your leading coefficient is positive. If you start from something negative here, then multiply -1 to all the terms and make it positive, and then go from there so that you don't get ambiguity here. In this case, it's already positive, so you don't really have to worry too much about it. And let's fill these up. These are a bunch of prime numbers, so it's going to be easy. So 1 times 2, 1 times 3, that's it. But where do I put negative signs? Clearly, we have to do it here and there, because the first column always has to be positive all the way. So that's the result. Please check horizontally and vertically. 1 times -2 is -2, okay. And 3 times -1 is -3, all right? 3 times 1 is 3. -1 times -2 is 2. And -3 times -2 is +6. Everything fits. And then we go ahead with a cross multiplication like this. So like this. 3 times -2. And then 1 times -1. 3 -2, so 3x minus 2, and 1 -1. 1x minus 1 equals 0, like this. Cross multiplication. That's how this tic-tac-toe method works. You get these two factors now. First factor is equal to 0, or the second factor is equal to 0. So from the first factor, you're going to get x equals to 2/3. And from the second factor, you're going to get x equals to 1. Does everything make sense? Okay, let's get out of this drawing mode. Okay. And then let's resume back. So cross multiply 1 -1, so 1x minus 1. Cross multiply 3 -2. And then first factor is equal to 0. Second factor is equal to 0. So what do you have? X minus 1 is equal to 0. Or 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So this came from blue factor. And that came from red factor. And these blue and red do not have anything to do with these blue-red. I mean, these tic-tac-toe boards were used up to get this factorization, so we are not looking at this anymore. We used it up. From this factorization, we have blue, red, and blue is equal to 0 or red is equal to 0. So from the blue equation, we get x equal to 1, From Redi equation, we get 3x is equal to 2. And then dividing by 3, we get x equal to 2/3. So we have red solution, and we have blue solution. This kind of thing is called the tic-tac-toe method for quadratic equations. If you type in tic-tac-toe method for, tic-tac-toe method for quadratic equation in YouTube, then you'll be able to see a lot of good examples and lesson videos associated to this. We have a little bit of time left, so let's do one more. Let's do this. First, we have to do 10 times -12. So we get 10 times -12, we get -120. Let's make it a little bit larger. And factors of -120 adding up to +7. What do you have there? 1 times 120, that never works. 2 times 60, still too far away. And then 3 times 40, think about all the pairs. Eventually you'll hit something. What do you have? You're gonna get 8 times 15. 8 times 15 is 120. We need -120, so we need two opposite signs. One should be positive, one should be negative. Which is it? We need -8 and +15 so that they add up to +7. Everything fits? Okay, and then let's fill up all these. So all these, horizontally, vertical, all should be multiplication. And 10, 15, looks like we're going to need 5 there. 3, 4, and where do I put the negative sign? Right here. Please check horizontally, vertically. 2 times -4, -8. 5 times 3, +15. 2 times 5, 10. -4 times 3, -12. Everything. All right? And then cross multiply. 2, 3, 5, -4. Here we go. 2, 3, so 2y plus 3, and 5, -4. 5y minus 4. So we get either this is equal to 0, or that's equal to 0. Blue times red is equal to 0. So we get either blue equation or red equation. 5y minus 4 is equal to 0, or 2y plus 3 is equal to 0. From the first equation, we get 5/4. From the second equation, we get -3/2. And they're got to be the solutions. I don't need this tic-tac-toe anymore. Does everything make sense? Now, there are other factorization methods, and if you feel more comfortable with other methods, go ahead and use those. I've seen many other instructors using many different methods, actually, and this just happens to be my favorite. If you have your own favorite and that works, then stick to it. Now, if your favorite method is not working very well, and if you're making a lot of mistakes, and if you want to learn a little bit from me, then my suggestion is to use tic-tac-toe methods. Looks like I'll have to leave this to you. You have to break up all those parentheses, take the like terms to make it into the standard form, ax² plus bx plus c equal to 0, and then use the factorization method, the tic-tac-toe, whatever. The detail is left to the students.